Oh, good. All right, it's 1 p.m. We're going to wait 2 more minutes for everyone to gather in. It's 1 p.m. We will be starting in about 2 minutes. We're just letting a few more people filter in. Thank you all for joining us. Be starting very, very shortly, about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Thank you for your patience and thank you for being here. All right, we'll wait just 60 more seconds and then get a prompt start. Just a few more people drifting in. I want to give them time to get all set up. All right, about 30 more seconds and we will get started. Thank you again all for jumping in. Thank you all for being here. Wait about 30 more seconds, a few more people sign in, and then we will start right away. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Kiosk Display September webinar. Here we are. Your time is your most precious commodity, and we appreciate you taking that time to tune in today. My name is John Vandermeer, Chief Experience Officer at Kiosk and Display, your full-service digital signage partner. As a side note, I look forward to seeing many of you at the ABA show in Chicago coming up. Watch your inboxes for an invite to our joint event / party / good time with Pannos Marketing at the Howl at the Moon Piano Bar. Really looking forward to that. It will be a no sales zone. Jim, I think we should even have a penalty that if anyone tries to sell anyone something, they have to like give them $100 or something.
Yeah, something like that, or they have to leave. That would be
or the person selling has to leave.
I think, because it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So joining me today is Sharon Klocek, our Director of Media Strategy and Development. Immediately following today's guest webinar, Sharon will show us 3 easy ways to boost your lobby screen ROI. It's just a handful of slides, will take less than 5 minutes. But to keep things rolling, I will now hand today's webinar over to Sharon, who will introduce and moderate our September guest presenter, Jim Pannos. Most of you have heard of him from Pannos Marketing. Take it away, Sharon.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Jim, I just wanted to say, as a fan of all things strategic, it is really my honor to introduce you today. We really appreciate the opportunity to connect with our marketers with someone who has not only pioneered financial services marketing, but has also grown your own business, Pannos Marketing, into a nationally recognized leader. Your deep understanding of both banking and marketing, stemming from your own time as a banker, is really evident in the way you've steered your agency into consistently innovating and delivering measurable results for your clients. Today, as our budget seasons get underway, I like to call it the B word, it is a perfect time to help financial marketers prove their strategies directly contribute to revenue and deliver measurable results. A skill that is so essential for us getting the budget we all deserve. By the end of today's session, we hope to have all actionable insights to you on how to budget like a boss, ensuring your budget not only justifies itself, but drives continuous growth for your financial institution. Without further delay, I'll turn the microphone over to Jim at Pannos Marketing.
Sharon and John, but Sharon especially, thank you for those way too kind words. The check is in the mail. Appreciate it. So, hello everyone, and I'm honored to be on this webinar with John and Sharon. I really it's a subject that I am passionate about, I guess. I really, as a former marketing director at a bank decades ago, I know it's hard to believe. I stumbled onto this issue by accident as I was building out a budget for the new bank I had just gone to work for as the marketing director. And I walked in proudly with my budget papers and all these spreadsheets that I had done on Lotus 1, 2, 3, for those of you old enough to remember that. And put them down, explained the campaigns I was going to do. The CFA was looking at me, nodding in agreement, taking a few notes, everything. I thought this was like, this is going to get me a promotion at some point. But he looks at me afterwards. He goes, okay, well, the numbers look right based off of what I gave you for a budget, but I don't see any justification of how you're going to make that money. I see the campaigns you want to run, checking or mortgage or whatever it may have been. He said, but I need you to find a way to justify this. Well, I went out, first of all, with my tail between my legs and said, damn. And I was able to call upon my prior experience as a director of product development at another financial institution and remembered some of the analytic information I needed to. And so I put my head down, closed my door, and went at it with some of the data I had and was able to acquire, and even spoke to the CFO about some of the numbers as far as what a checking account makes. Well, what's our spread and all these things. And he was pleased to give it to me. And I went in there that next day with this information, and he looked at me, he goes, all right, approved. Now go make it happen. So that kind of has always stuck with me. And it's something that I think all marketers need to have some sort of expertise in. And, for the most part, this exercise becomes algebraic. But the key is gathering the information you need, going to the right resources, seeking out the CFO or going online, checking places. I mean, just recently I did an analysis for a client for a checking account where we were going to be potentially giving $300 for a year's worth of, $300 at opening, and you had to have direct deposit and, the usual things that you needed. And the other option was getting Netflix for a year free, because they were looking for a younger demographic. And I said, well, let's do an analysis on this. So I went to my sources online, found out what an average checking account might make based off of the average balances. The bank was able to give me their average life of the checking account, the average balance that they were attaining, what they opened on an ongoing basis. So I was trying to find out what the incremental openings they needed to offset the expense and actually make some money. And so we went through the whole process, again, gathering information from places like Cornerstone Advisors, bankrate.com, all these other areas, and finding out what on average people are making on a checking account. And so I went through the whole process, and the $300 one came up, and it produced 154.69% ROI based on the numbers and a lot of it what the bank gave us. The Netflix came in with 284% ROI. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. I thought Netflix was going to come in lower, but when we did the analysis, we also looked at potentially getting a younger demographic and getting a few more people in there. So that was just one way of pulling it together. And then the marketing director was equipped with all this information we gave her, and she went into the bank president and went through the whole thing, and he agreed with her. We're going to be doing that, but it was a tough year. Margins are down. Why don't we just put this off till maybe 6 or 8 months down the road and see what happens with rates? And oh, by the way, we know what happened with the rates yesterday, so it's not hard to remember that. But
What What a fantastic example. I love the fact that getting that conversation in early now is going to result in the rates are dropping, we're ready to rock and roll without having to start something fresh and new at the wrong time. So I'm gonna jump in for just a second and say we're gonna do our first poll just so we can get these in there because we'd love to know more about our audience here today. The first question is, does your institution have a dedicated marketing team? That means more than just you. And it's a yes or no question, should be pretty easy. Just go ahead and answer and we'll continue on our way. Thank you, Jim.
My pleasure. Can I go now or should I wait till the poll
You
is done?
can keep going. It looks
Keep
like,
going? All right.
yeah,
So,
everybody will see.
so I'm sure many of you also, and this person was fortunate in that her budget was not cut this past year, but we had a number of clients who were unfortunate where 10, 15, 20% of their marketing budget was cut because margins were razor thin, loan demand was down, all these things that contribute to a good year for a bank. But the thing that I guess I have an issue with, and I'm sure most of you on this call might, is that why is marketing always targeted first? Why is it that banks will look and say, well, we need to budget our ROA at this number. We need another 1 or 2 basis points. Oh, look, there's $500,000 in the marketing budget. Why don't we take 150,000 out of that, and that'll get us those 2 basis points? And I had a client that exact thing happened to them a few years back at the last economic downturn, and it's always stuck with me. And I did some speaking earlier this year, and when I asked the question of these CEOs, it was nothing but CEOs or C-suite people, and I think I spoke to about 90 of them over a 3-month period in these small groups, and I found out that about 55 or 60% of them, when asked a poll question, what departments would you cut first if you had to reduce your budget by $200,000?
Wow. And that leads us to our next poll question. Has your marketing department faced budget cuts in the last 2 years? Yes or no? Are you one of those that got hit by those C-suite people?
And in those answers, just for your information, from those C-suite people, 60% of all of the answers from these 90 C-suite people, the first department they named was marketing. And I want to know why, damn it. It's like biting off your nose to spite your face. I mean, if you're not going to be marketing, how the heck are you going to get those loans that generate revenue or checking accounts that bring in fee income? How are you going to do that if you're not out in the marketplace? And it kind of maddens me in a bit as a former marketer. And now I'm a bank marketer, but I'm a bank marketer for financial institutions. So we just try to look at these things and try to help marketers convince or position themselves within their institutions, not as an expense department, but as an investment. Your marketing should be looked upon as an investment. And I have in front of me all these different pieces of paper that have all these calculations on Excel. I threw away Lotus 1, 2, 3 at some point I had to. But so I've got Excel sheets and I've got a couple, and we use them for a couple of reasons. Not only is it to find out an ROI of a project that has been completed, but also to do a forecast of what you need to do to break even or to make a 100% ROI, a 200% ROI, and so on. So those things are important. The forecasting ones sometimes are even more important because that will allow you to show that to the C-suite and have them maybe open the wallet up a little bit and say, oh, so if we do just 30 or 40 more accounts over a certain period of time, we're going to see a 625% ROI. That's right. That's all we need to do based on what the information you gave me, the length of an account, and so on. So these things are, again, algebraic in nature, but truly ring the bell on the marketing side. You can talk. make yourself able to talk a good game and fend for yourself, because don't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty asking for dollars or going and speaking to them that we're going to spend $85,000 or we're going to spend $35,000 on a checking campaign or a home equity loan campaign or whatever it might be. So make sure you're able to position that. And the way of doing that, again, is to find some resources. Where can you find information on, let's say, the average life of a checking account in your market or at your institution? You can probably get that internally, check with the CFO, check with the director of operations, or there are places out there that have those have that data handy. And the ones I like to use, I want to say I got it from bankrate.com, but I'm not 100%. But it was a younger demographic up to age 24 or 25. I believe the average life was somewhere around 6.5 to 8 years. Thinking that they may be moving, getting out of college, getting married, and also that the checking account might not stay with them as they travel around. And then there was the next age group, the middle age group, the family age group, the parents and all of that. You can call them whatever generation you'd like, but that group averages somewhere in the vicinity of 12 to 15 years. They'll keep a checking account. And then you go to the senior level. The senior citizens normally keep their checking account anywhere from 18 to 23 years. Because once they get in and set in their way and they're getting great service, whether it's online or in the branch, they're going to be very happy and they're going to stay with you. So I use those data points when I'm figuring out what a checking account is worth. And I'm just going to give you a quick example, if I can remember the numbers and properly.
Before we get into your example, I'm just going to throw in another question so that we know where our audience is sitting. So no, this is my job to interject. So audience, how do you spend your allocated marketing budget so that we know and we can maybe even tweak some of the things that we're going to be talking about, because we probably know what you're going to say. But let us know where you're spending your money. Is it print campaigns, digital? Is it a mix of print and digital, events, swag, other, all of the above? Let us know. And I'm also going to encourage you to put any questions that you have for Jim into the chat so that we can bring those up at the end of the presentation. So we want to know what your questions are, and Jim is such a wealth of information. We'd be happy to get those answered for you. So you can put those in at any time during the presentation. You don't have to kind of hold on to them while you're listening to what's next.
All right. So the example I'm going to give you is, let's say you want to do a checking account promotion. And it's not one that's giving away the Netflix or anything like that. You're not going to be giving any dollars when you're signing on. But what you're doing is you might have maybe you have a rewards program in place, or it just might be that you have a very affordable, easy to open account where you have online account opening and that you're refunding ATM fees, whatever it might be. But it's basically the ante to get in the game, right? You're not going out and giving extra dollars, but you basically have to do some of these things in today's world to get people to listen to you. And you're going to do a really strong campaign. You're going to do digital in your market area. You're going to do some traditional here or there selected. You're going to create a landing page. You're going to take that landing page and put all your disclosures on it, and you're going to send that, and they're going to have the apply now or ask more or find a branch or whatever it might be. And you're going to have open an account now, and that'll take them to your online account. So it's all set up. You go in there and you're going to spend about $30,000 on this campaign. Whoa, that's a pretty good sized campaign. And regardless of what your average balance is, what you can find out is roughly what your average revenue annually is for your account. And again, you can get it from these benchmark companies, or you can get it from your CFO or someone else within the organization. I've done it both ways. But right now, we're going to say that this particular account on an annualized basis, one account brings the bank $300. Easy enough to figure out. And let's say you keep a benchmark of what your what performance you've done in the prior year. And that's really important. You should try to do that regardless. Always know what kind of account openings you've had, regardless of the kind of account, the prior year, and whether you had a promotion going at the time you opened those, because now you're able to show some comparison year over year. So let's just say in this particular case, the prior year, this bank, in a 3-month period during this campaign, opened 100 accounts, and there was no promotion. And during the 3-month period in this campaign, they opened 140 accounts. They had a 40 account incremental increase. And so you're taking that 40 account incremental increase and saying, all right, each one of these accounts makes $300 annually for the bank. Well, that's $120,000. And from what I got from my CFO or someone else, our average accounts are open 10 years. Well, geez, $120,000 a year, even with some decent, some attrition in there, 120,000 times 10 years is $1.2 million of revenue going to the bank from your 3-month openings of those checking accounts. That incremental number of 40 additional at $300 a month, I mean, $300 a year. So you can do the ROI, but all you have to look at is 1.2 million. Let's say you lost some 1 million and you spent $20,000. Let's say you spent 40,000. Your ROI is off the charts. And the problem that we find when we're dealing with our clients is it's not the $120, 120 accounts or the 120,000 that you can make in a year. What sticks in the craw of many bankers is the $20 or $30 or $40,000 that it's going to cost to promote this. And that's why you have to take this and put it all together in a fairly simple math project to generate that ROI. And you can do that for anything you have. Sharon, you're going to interrupt me one more time?
Of course I am, because that's my time. So
I'm
hopefully you don't.
anticipating it now.
I'm trying to give you little hand signals. So I absolutely love that it is possible to do return on investment checking and to see where you are in the process of it with something fairly simple with account opening, because it's relatable and it's easy to convey to the C-suite in that thing. So I want to take another poll. People who are here today, do you track the results and effectiveness of your different campaigns and marketing and initiatives so that you have proof points to defend your work? Do you have those benchmark moments so that you know where you were and where you're going to go? You know, is it always, usually, sometimes, rarely, or never? We'd love to know. Thank you so much.
It's like sometimes for the win.
Of course, keep your questions and answers. We'll be answering your questions at the end of the program, so please use that chat in the Zoom to put any questions that you've had during the course of this conversation or that will come, and we'll get those questions answered at the very end for you. All right, it looks like sometimes is the answer that's the most popular as far as tracking for all of your audience members here today, Jim.
Well, it's better than not at all.
It is.
So it's good. That's great. That's a great start. And that will help you on your way to, as the question asked, it's a proof point for you so that you can go and show that your promotions hopefully generated more revenue and more account openings or loan openings during your promotion period than you did the prior year. And that will put you on the road to ROI. Write that down, John. Road to ROI. I kind of like that.
I got you.
Put JT next to it, though.
All right. You want to talk more examples?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk loans. Let's talk. I've got a home equity line of credit example we did for a client. This goes back a little ways, but it's still very pertinent, I think, today, especially with the rate, the Fed dropping the rate a half point. I think we're going to start seeing some home equity line promotions going on, and it'd be great to maybe aggressively speak to your loan officers at the bank and tell them that you're hearing that home equities are going to be pretty hot in the coming months because of the half point drop, and people are looking for ways to get a lower rate and get some money out of their homes so they can either refurbish them or pay off bills or whatever. So you ought to go for it. Free advice. Not that you guys probably are. You guys already probably did that. So in this particular case, it's unique because it kind of mixed in some digital analysis with the promotion. When we do when we do all of our digital ads, our media team always does Google search trends. It's really important. If you're not doing them, please make sure you do them. They're free. You can get them, and by the Google search trends, we can search keywords for specific products, and it gives you a 4-year history of how those products were searched in your market area. You can put your CRA pounds in there. You can do a radius, or you can just put in whatever you need. But these Google search trends will pop up, and you'll see a trend, and they're graphed, and they are so valuable when deciding when and where to market. Now, granted, there's going to be some areas that are always going to be high during a certain part of the year. Let's say home equities and mortgage. Everybody, I think, somehow markets mortgages and home equities in the spring. Personally, I think you ought to do it a little earlier on the mortgages because people are getting pre-approved, and going out in January, February isn't the worst idea in the world. And we're starting to see a lot more people searching for those mortgage keywords earlier in the year. And we're seeing a lot of mortgage keywords throughout the year all the time. People are always looking for information. And so with that, we do a lot of always on. I'm not sure, I'm going to tell you, raise your hands if you do always on campaigns, but John and Sharon haven't raised their hands, so nobody on this, with the three of us have, and I can't see Jen. So, so what we did with this one, we looked at the home equity line of credit, which again is one of those springtime, the winter's over or whatever it may be. If you're in Florida, the people are going to be doing things there differently than they are up in the Boston market or in Minnesota or wherever. But everybody seems to promote home equities in the spring. And we looked at these search trends, and we noticed in this particular market, search words for home equities were spiking in August, September, and October, which we thought were pretty interesting. So we had our monthly meeting with our client. We're armed with that information. The bank president sits in on our meetings. They've been a client for well over 20 years now. And we just said, do you know, and this was probably in June or July, I'm not sure. And we showed them that information, showed the whole team. And they said, no, we didn't know that. That's interesting. I said, why don't we do a campaign? And so we went through the whole thing, went back and forth. We gave him an estimate on it. He felt it was kind of expensive, but you got to spend money to make money in any event. The whole, I believe I'm trying to remember what the overall cost of the campaign was, but it was around $32,000 to $35,000 for the campaign for this. We were doing again, digital, traditional, and we did a direct mail campaign for them in their market area. The prior year, they were able to look up how many home equity lines they opened those 3 months, not closed, because they sometimes some of these closings might come 1 or 2 months after the campaign. So they're looking for those that were opened and approved. In that prior year, they had opened 41 home equity lines of credit that time of year. And this time we went through and did that campaign, and to come up with an analysis for them, I had to ask the information, what the average draw of the each line is, and I got 27,500. And the average assuming the average life of a home equity line at this particular institution was 6 years before they go around and maybe refinance it or roll it into a big mortgage or something and pay it off. So 6 years. And so we averaged out the outstanding balance over 6 years because we assumed some of it would go away. And again, all of these, I ran every one of these numbers by the bank president, who used to be the CFO. So I'm assuming he knew what he was talking about. And he said, yeah, those look pretty reasonable, Jim. They do. And so we came up with an average annual income for each home equity at a 3.25% net interest margin of about $601. And so we went through and took a look at the benchmark versus the promotional period, what we did, the incremental increase in lines. And during the benchmark period, they opened about $2.6 million in lines. During the promotional period, they opened $5.4 million of lines. Their lines were about $2.8 million incrementally more during that period. Their average draw, using the estimate of about 46%, was going to be about 1.3 million. And again, hello, Dan, I just want to make sure you're okay with this information because I don't want you to say I made them up. And so he did, he was, and we went through the whole thing. We came up with approximately a little over $250,000 of net interest margin over 6 years. It was about $42,000 of net interest margin at 3.25%, which was 3.25% of the outstanding balance of the loans for 6 years, $250,000. And considering the actually, I'm looking here, I have it, it's $31,788 cost. The overall ROI was 691%. So he looked at that. And so we've been doing home equity lines of credit promotions during that period of time. I would say for about 70% of the years we've done it, since we've done this. We did this about 4 or 5 years ago. With the pandemic coming in, it kind of, stalled us a bit, but we'll probably be doing it again this year because I really think Google Trends don't lie. Using data to your advantage, whether it's third-party data like Google, information you have within your organization, again, and then apply the algebraic piece of it to figure out what it's going to cost you to do the campaign, what you have left over after you get the revenue, and do the division, and you're going to get your ROI. So all these things you can do. But the bottom line isn't how much money your bank's making versus another bank or other investments. The bottom line is your marketing department didn't spend $32,000 on a home equity loan campaign. Your marketing department invested $32,000 in a home equity campaign and generated an additional $220,000 of revenue. That, to me, is the key to this conversation here. And you can do it with just about every product. You could even do it with a website. Again, you'd need some information, do you have an online account opening? Don't you have it? Do you have online loan apps? Don't you have it? What were you doing prior years when you didn't have it? What did you do now? If you're going to get a new website and add those pieces to it, let's figure out what all that analysis is going to bring and what the net interest margin is on the online loan applications you approved or the online accounts that you opened, what you generated for revenue. It's similar to what we were already talking about, but you're making some assumptions based on a lot of industry standards that are out there. Again, there's plenty of them that will tell you the difference between online account opening, on what you're doing, how much online account opening increases your normal account opening at branch level. So you can sit and make and generate a revenue analysis that way. And we've done that for some clients to the point where we came up with numbers of accounts that they needed to open to pay off a new website.
Oh, that's
So
brilliant.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I get X to get Y.
Again, but always talk to people in-house because you don't want to go off and start making your own assumptions. Just check with them and say, are you okay with this assumption? Are you okay? I got this number from Cornerstone Advisors. I was online at the Financial Brand website and I got this information. I want to make sure you're okay with it so that they don't think you're just trying to bump it up and get a new website because you really need one. And just one other tip on websites for those of you who might be looking for one, but people don't want to, we don't want to spend $60,000, $70,000. In some cases, you can get them for 150, 200,000, but whatever the case may be, one thing a lot of banks don't know is that a website is a technology expense, which is basically can be amortized over the expected life of the website. So if you expect to build a website today and launch it, let's say launching it today, and you feel that in 5 years you're going to build a new website, that, to make my math easy, that $50,000 you spent can be amortized over 5 years at 10. So the expense that's hitting the budget is $10,000 a year, which makes it a lot easier for your CFO and the accountants to swallow rather than this one big lump. Plus, it doesn't come out of your budget as much. You've got more budget to make more ROI from. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do. And I'm, again, be more than happy to answer any questions you may have, but I know we probably are getting close to my limit because I know I can probably go a lot longer if you want, but if you have some things you'd like to go with, I'm good.
So we have about 10 more minutes and one more example, but since you're leading us to websites, I'm hoping you're going to talk about another website example. But before we go there, one more poll. This is our last poll of our conversation. How old is your financial institution's website? Is it 0 to 3? Is it a newbie? Is it 4 to 5 years old? Kind of middle-aged? Maybe older, 6 to 8 years, which to me seems like a lifetime, or is it 9 to 10 years old, which means you've either never done you've only done your website over once or twice in 30 years, because boy, websites have been around for 30 years, which is hard to believe. So great conversation. Thank you so much. And please do we're gathering the last of our questions for our Q&A as we let Jim wrap up with our last example. But I want to put in one word for you, Jim. I think that you've come up with your new t-shirt for your next marketing conference. I would say it should say something to the effect of "Don't spend, invest and generate with Pannos Marketing."
Wow.
So well done.
That's going to cost you.
Thank you. I just saw some of those website numbers real quick. There's some old ones in there. And when I did that C-suite, those symposiums for the C-suite group, about, I want to say it was 28 to 30% of the people, their websites were at least 10 years old, at least.
Well, you've got a group of more active people here. It looks like about 44% is the 4 to 5 years old, but they're still 11% in that 9 to 10 year range.
And one thing we hear when we're going to build a website, we have people call us, say, we need to launch it real soon. Oh, my website's really old. We need one. You've got to remember how long it takes to build one, which is anywhere from 6 to 9 months, probably. So if your website is 4 years old, you should be looking at, and you want to get a new one every 5 years, you really should be looking now so that it can be ready to roll when it's at before its 5th birthday. And if your website is 8 to 9 years old, you're taking yourself out of the game. I think I had given an example about how important websites are when we were talking earlier with the group before our conversation with you folks. We had a client who had a real issue with websites. She couldn't get it approved from her the bank president. They didn't want to spend the money, and it was about a $60,000 website. And we didn't even tell them about the 5-year amortization yet. We told them that later on, but they were also in the process of renovating one of their branches. And I asked the marketing director, I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but could you just find out how much you're paying for that branch renovation? You go, no, let me look. And she calls me back. Jim, we're spending $1.1 million on it. I said, cool. All right. I said, how about you and I do an experiment? And she said, well, what kind of experiment? I said, well, when you do a poll in your branches, and there were only 4 branches, the bank had 4 branches, I said, could you do an analysis of any non-customer who walks into the branch to talk to a CSR or just ask questions or whatever it might be, any non-customer coming into your bricks and mortar branches, could you count them for the month of January? Let's just say, I don't know exactly, I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at the analysis. So she was able to do that. Now, we had built their prior website, by the way, and it was getting old. So she gave us that number. And then we did an analysis online where we're able to identify, at that point, we were able to identify new visitors to the website. So what's a new visitor? Well, a new visitor, in this particular bank, it was pretty active in the marketing, on the marketing side, on the digital side especially. They had basically really flipped their digital versus traditional spending. They were probably spending about 10 to 20% of their media budget on traditional, which may have included a billboard here and there, maybe an ad just to keep the president happy in a particular newspaper. And then the rest of it was being done digitally. So if somebody's looking online, and let's say we're doing some Google SEM, pay-per-click, and somebody's typing up free checking or best checking in the area or whatever it may be. I'm doing my little typewriting here. And oh, geez, that your bank comes up and they click on it and they go to that landing page. And then they click on the landing, they see what you're offering. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I get all my ATM fees back. I earn points. Oh, good. I'm gonna see what I can do. And I'm gonna click on but before, I'm not going to click on open now yet. I want to learn a little bit about the bank because I don't think I've heard of them. So they click on, and they go to the website and they go to the home page. And then from there, they go to the online account opening and they open an account. That person is never walking into your branch, by the way. Those people will not. If they're going and looking online to try to find great deals, for the most part, they will go to your website first. The first impression of your financial institution is your website. And the numbers I was just talking about earlier, we did the analysis and we took the numbers we got of the people who were walking into the branches, and there were 683% more non-customers, new visitors to the website than there were non-customers, new visitors into that bank's 4 branches combined.
Wow.
And it just was mind-boggling. And when I gave that information to the marketing director, she's got an attitude about her, which is great. She walked into the bank president's office, talked about the $1.1 million we're spending on one of the bank branches, and wants to know why she can't get $50,000 or $60,000 for a website, and showed him the numbers. And she won. They ended up getting a new website. Took about 2-3 months to convince them and go through the whole process, but she ended up getting a new website, and it was all data. And data is king today, whether it's through Google Analytics or through some of the things, the profitability of accounts. The life of an account is so important, because a 1-year profitability on a checking account sounds like nothing. $300 or $400 or $200. But when you multiply times 10 or 15 years, then all of a sudden you're talking some serious cash. So remember all of those things, and don't be afraid to talk about how not marketing is more expensive than giving you a budget to market. It's going to cost the bank or credit union in the long run by not marketing.
That's one of the most strategic stories I've heard in a long time as far as ROI goes, and hats off to you. That was brilliant. Well done helping your client navigating to that end. That's wow.
I get it. Thank you very much, Sharon, again. I get passionate about this. Again, being a former banker, having to go through what I went through initially. And I just, I love seeing marketers win, because I really think it's a great job. And marketing is just, it's not buying more pens. Well, we got to get next year's calendar ready. geez, commercials about to have a golf tournament. Can you order some new golf, some Pro V1 golf balls for them, that's not what
That's
marketing is.
offense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you might have to do that. You make money for the bank. Go out and do it.
Yeah. I know I went to a banking school, and one of the things that they kept saying over and over again from a marketing perspective is that you need a seat at the table and you need to come with numbers.
Exactly. So right. Yeah, and I too went to banking school, but it was in the dark ages. But the marketing professor, who was the head of the department, I went to the University of Virginia down there, and he was like all over between the economics professor, who I actually saw when I was doing those symposiums. He was there, and I was talking to him. He was one of the economics guy for it. Both of them were just talking about the ability to generate revenue by marketing, not sitting there waiting for the world to come to you. And it's just so true. And Sharon's so correct. Marketing does need to have a seat at a table. We've actually lobbied with a few of our clients, and I'm glad to say one just recently got invited to be on the ALCO committee. We have a couple of them are on ALCO committees, and I think it's wonderful. You need to know what's going on. Otherwise, how do you know what you need to do next? You can't always rely on ad agencies, or I like to call us marketing agencies, because marketing is far more strategic than advertising to me. So, but they're a good partner to have if you need one, but they're also great resources for you. But getting in on those conversations in ALCO and everywhere else is priceless. And it positions you as somebody who's on the rise and somebody who's trusted within the organization.
Fastest way up that chain. So that's great.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I think that comes to the conclusion of our main part of our presentation. It is time to head over to Jen. Jen, I'm just giving you a heads up. We're going to head into our Q&A part of our presentation.
Yes, we have a few questions.
Awesome.
These are for Jim. First question, Jim, how did you determine the anticipated response rate between the $300 new account opening bonus versus the Netflix to make an accurate comparison?
And that's a great question. Hold on, I have it here. We didn't. We actually worked with the marketing director, and she said, why don't we just use the same number for both? So that I can show the bank president which one's going to make us more money. I'd rather do that than guess at the number based off of, and then if I'm wrong, if I go too low and I don't make any, and I don't make it, or if I go too high and I don't make it, but at least on a break-even analysis, she wanted to show the same number. The way we do it is we talk and look at trends. If somebody wants to know what we think they're going to do the following year, we'll take a look and see, ask them, if it's a new client, if it's an older client, we probably have the information. What did they open in this account over the last 4 years, if you have that data? And what years, which ones of those years might you have had a promotion? And what was that promotion? And maybe you do it over a 3 or 4 month period, or you could do the entire year actually, and just try to back out some of the numbers that aren't salient. But the key is finding the months that you've promoted a product or service versus a product that you haven't. And then use those numbers to be your trend percentage. Does not have to be exact. You can take a look at it, take a look at the market, take a look at the pricing. Is it a great deal? Is the product you're pushing out there maybe not as competitive because somebody else in your market is offering, you've got 3 Chase banks around you and they're offering $900 and you're offering $400. Well, maybe you don't want to be as aggressive when opening a new checking account. But I think documenting and using trends from prior years is what we like to use, unless we have somebody who says, just use the same number so I can show what the difference is and which one they're going to make more money with.
Thank you. We have another question asking if the audience will see the polling results. Checking the time, I think we'll add those into the email that'll be sent out later today or tomorrow with the recording link. So we'll make sure that we include the polling results in that email to all of our participants today. And then last question for Jim. If Pannos Marketing built a new website for a client today, what is the number one thing about that site which will make it need to be replaced in 5 years?
It probably isn't the site. It's what's going on in the marketplace at the time. 5 years ago, were you thinking about having a CRM built into your content management platform? Were you thinking about AI? Were you thinking about sending emails from your website out to your existing customer base? Were you thinking about again, Salesforce or whatever, building that in? Maybe you were, but for the most part, it's outside forces that makes your website obsolete if you want to continue to grow. Now, the website itself, some of the content management platforms improve over years. The way you can program a website can improve. But overall, we have some clients that have had their websites for 8 to 10 years. But the rule of thumb, it kind of is like every year of a website is, just like the old a dog is every year of a human is 7 years to a dog. Well, every year of a human is probably like 3 or 4 years to a website. At least that's what some people say. But I think overall, looking to replace your website in the next 4 to 5 years might be a good, every 4 to 5 years is a good approach. And again, a lot of it depends on you and what you're bringing on board as far as products and services. Maybe when you started it, did not have online account opening, didn't have online loan applications when you had it 5 years ago. Perhaps, again, you just didn't have all the tools that you can put on a new website. Whether it's, maybe some of the educational pieces you can put on websites today are so much more vibrant than what you could have put on 5 years ago. And also, if your website has just been neglected over time, in all likelihood, it's not SEO optimized. And if it's not SEO optimized, it's probably not ADA compliant. And so you want to make sure that's happening too. And the great thing about keeping your website SEO optimized, many of the things you do to make it optimized SEO wise help you get closer to being ADA compliant. So there's a lot of reasons. But again, I think more of them are outside pressures to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, because if all of your competitors start coming out with some websites that take advantage of some of the newest technologies, and you're sitting there, with the squirrel running on the belt there, the conveyor belt, then maybe you need to start looking at a new one.
Thank you. One last question, Jim. What are the key metrics a marketer at a financial institution is measured on? More specifically, from the C-suite down, does the rest of the marketing team receive metrics to hit for loans funded, conversion rates, time on the website, all of the above, or something else?
I think the vast majority of them are not in that category as far as all those metrics. I'd like to see them. And those that are being measured on those, I think that's a vote of confidence for you and for the C-suite, because they believe that marketing is an investment if they're asking you those questions. So my suggestion might be, take some of the items that Jen just was reading and go up to your whether it's an SVP or someone in the C-suite, or if you report directly to the president, whoever it might be, and say, I would love to be measured on a few things that show that marketing really is performing well and generating revenue for the bank. And here are some of the things that they might be, you know, and I think you should look at that. And when you're building a budget, if you're building a budget and you're doing promotions and you kind of are suggesting products and services, try to find out what each one of those products and services bring to your organization. And then take a look at some of your history as to what you may have opened. I know it's kind of it's a lot to do, but it's going to position marketing in a far more hierarchical spot than it is for many other banks and credit unions across the country. Because again, we also have those financial institutions who are looking at you to make sure that the golf balls are in everybody's carts and that nobody goes without pens and calendars.
Well done, well done. John, did you want to say anything before I?
No, Jim, you really are a budgeting Buddha. So I hope our audience, this was a good use of their time and they learned a few nuggets that they didn't know before. And thank you, Jim. You do a great service to the industry.
Well, thank you very much, John, Sharon, Jen. I appreciate your invitation for me to speak. I'm looking forward to seeing any of you, as John was mentioning, at the ABA Marketing Conference in Chicago the first weekend of October. Yeah, Howl at the Moon Dueling Pianos, going to be a great time. We even have bus transportation back and forth just because we know people maybe might get lost if they're going home.
Well,
But overall, yeah. And that last question, by the way, I mean, if any, you know, we could, I could speak about that and a few of the other questions for a while. If anybody wants to reach out to me specifically, drop me an email. I think it's probably in there somewhere, but it's J Pannos at Pannos Marketing. Pannos is spelled with 2 N's. More than happy to set something up and talk with you about it. No requirements, no sales pitch, just talking about how to make marketing more prevalent in the hierarchy of your organization.
nice, nice. Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Jim. We're going to move on, but thank you for showing us how to ensure that marketing initiatives really can consistently deliver value and enhance our brand's success. I can actually see so well now how you've maintained the relationships for you that have lasted over decades through your company. It's a testament not only to your skills, but to the trust you've built with your integrity-driven approach, and more than a few amazing industry parties like the one you've got planned in Chicago.
Yeah.
To our audience,
we have planned.
I'm sorry. Yes, we have.
You guys stepped up to the plate. It's exciting.
Well, we step up quickly when we know you're involved. So
Thank you.
to our audience, you can find more of Jim's insights in publications like the ABA Banking Journal as others, where he discusses the importance of community banking and evolving technology. If you do have a moment to spare, next up, while you're free to depart, we invite you to stay for just 5 more minutes to learn 3 ways to increase your lobby digital signage ROI. This is something that I do for Kiosk and Display on a regular basis. And so I just want to talk about some of the key concepts that are involved in the numbers ROIs that I generate for financial institutions that do request them. We have a generic one I can share with you immediately, but I'm always willing to do a custom one as well. So without further ado, I'll just jump right in.
Sharon, do you mind if I stick around and watch?
You are more than welcome to stick around and watch.
Awesome.
In fact,
Thank you.
if you ever have the opportunity to talk to somebody about all the different things that you do, we'd love to include digital signage in that as well, because
Okay.
your marketing efforts go everywhere and the branch is included in that. So the number one thing that we find with ROI that makes immediate sense without doing any kind of marketing is to reduce costs. Okay. So whether it's marketing, operations, or HR, reducing costs is something that digital signage is good at, because information not communicated is time wasted and time is money. So when you can do things like eliminating print and distribution costs, no more printing is no longer cheap, and getting all those flyers to each branch is not easy. The ROI becomes very clear for digital signage in branches, and we've got the numbers to prove that. Streamlining internal communications, reducing memos, emails, meetings, and administrative costs. When you communicate and remind staff about HR or operations things happening in your institution, you can do that before or after your screens that you have now inside your branches, you can use them before opening and after close to get those critical performance messages to your staff. You've just blown away ROI right there with that idea. In fact, some institutions are even moving their digital signage out of marketing and into operations. Wouldn't you love to have that money back? Because it strategically makes sense because you're using it not just for marketing. Share that cost, okay? And then centralized content management. I spoke to one of our clients when we first started working years ago, and they had this wonderful phrase that their website is their one source of truth. Everything relates back to the website. So I love when Jim talks about the strategic use of websites. I believe that digital signage is the one source of truth inside the branch. It is where you can get those messages out quickly, easily, and efficient. And you know it's happening, not like, driving around to each of your branches trying to want you see if the rates are changed or the compliance is changed or, all the information about the promos are actually hitting their marks inside your branches as well as your outside marks. Okay, so making sure those benchmarks happen can't really happen unless you're getting that information into the branch as well. Okay, so that's my number one tip on ROI for digital signage. Number two is, yes, don't forget cross-sell and upsell. I'm sure that you're not, but I do see that there's room for growth in even some of our own customers. And so we always like to remind about that. Get those promotion credit card accounts out there. I've actually recently read that most credit card companies are finding that they're having better success with cashback than they are with rewards right now because people are strapped. So always keep on top of that kind of information and make sure that you're doing your cross-sell promotions to speak to that data change. Data is king, just like Mr. Pannos said. So, and making sure that those advertised loan operation and mortgage, those operations and mortgage holders are really getting the information that they need to know about their home equity at the right time. Jim told us when that right time is. Make sure you match that on your digital signage. And make sure that you're offering those investment services to high balance customers, ensuring more bank services get used, not just your core deposits. Okay, and lastly, we're going to keep this short and to the point. Data-driven messaging. This is what I like to call the socially accepted version of personalized messages. We've always heard about personalized messages and people get creeped out with the idea of, you made a transaction inside the branch and yet you get a digital signage that's showing you something directly related to that. It's a little too personal. It gets a little creepy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making sure, like Jim said, you check the data to find out when are those peak promotion happenings. Am I taking advantage of all the right seasonal content, getting that emotional draw for those holidays? And am I making sure to target the frequent visitors of my branches? It's most likely business, but am I talking to the right people at the right time? Digital signage can serve up not just the same messages over and over again, which is extremely helpful because it's always there reminding us, but it can target time of day. For example, the top screen there is a business spotlight. And this is an opportunity to spotlight businesses who are your members or your customers and put them up on screen, kind of like that table in the branch, but you can put it up during lunch hour. If they're a restaurant, put it up during lunch hour. If they're an after hours entertainment venue, do it so if your outside screens are facing the road, make sure that people walking by can see that opportunity from your business partner. And John has a great story, and that I'll end with, that one of our customers actually had business spotlight people come into the branch to have their photo taken in front of the screen because they're so excited to have that opportunity to be featured inside your bank branches or your credit union branches. that it's really an attractive thing to provide them. And some financial institutions have even used it as a loan promotion. Hey, we're going to give you this when you do a loan with us. So there's so much opportunity for ROI in the digital signage space. If you're interested in knowing more, please reach out to me. Take a picture of this screen. It actually has my LinkedIn on it, and you can email me at sharon@kioskanddisplay.com. And that's it.
Well done, both of you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Mr. Pannos. I hope our audience got value out of this 63 minutes. I know I did, and this will be available for playback on our website fairly soon. And thank you both again. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for sticking around and listening. I'm assuming you did, though.
There's people still
John
here.
will let me know if anybody dropped, but
It's also on the replay, so
okay. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye
thank
now.
you. Bye-bye.